Well, locked in after the bye. Mississippi State attacks Friday with bowl eligibility, bragging rights, and the golden egg all on the line.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jaron Spor. Welcome to Locked On Mississippi State, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. As I said, I'm Jaron Spor, I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon, McBride. We've got a press conference show for you today because we're going to break down all the things that Lebby had to say ahead of the Egg Bowl, which is obviously happening tomorrow morning. Also, we will give our upset of the week. We're back. We finally get an upset of the week this time. And speaking of back, my voice is semi back.
There we go.
It's starting to rotate in. I have not drank this much tea, and I can't tell you how long. Tea and honey, for those out there, it is a miracle worker. But yes, it is doing a lot of work. Because I went from, let's see, we recorded Monday's podcast Sunday, like we always do. Yeah. And then I had to do my Locked On Tampa Bay one that night, which was an hour. And man, my voice was shot by the end of it. But anyways, we're making it.
Just in time for you to lose it on Friday.
Yeah, hopefully I'm losing it because I'm cheering and not because I'm grumpy. But yeah, let's dive into some of the things that Jeff Lebby said. He talked about quite a bit of stuff.
He was all over the place.
Yeah, he really was. But I do kind of want to touch on the Ole Miss's defense. Is kind of what he mainly highlighted in one spot. But he said they've definitely gotten better as the year's gone on. It's a group that, again, has been really good situationally. They've been great on third downs and getting off the field. Us finding ways to run the football enough and be effective in the run game to give us some good situations, I think, will be key. Us taking great care of the football will be key. But I would think as they sit there, man, they're probably going to try like heck to limit the explosives in the throwing game and the running game. He's right. Ole Miss, this isn't as good of a unit as it was last year. Steven and I talked about it last week, and we touched on it a little bit on yesterday's episode as well. But this team isn't as good as it was last year, talent-wise, but they're more consistent, which makes them the better team, in our opinion. And I think you're also seeing that with the defense. It's not as good of a unit defensively as last year's unit, but they are very consistent and they're very good situationally, which has made them almost play better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they don't have the talent. Like, obviously, they're still very talented. They just don't have those crazy high-level talent guys like they've had the last couple of years that you'll see the massive splash plays or one guy taking over a game. It's more just a very complete unit that doesn't get beat often because they're so sound. There's no real weak points, but there's also nothing that you can really point to and be like, they're great at this. They're just very good at everything across the board. I like how he said they're going to try to limit the explosives in the run and the pass game. So, I believe that's the defensive plan for most teams going in.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad he brought up the run game a couple times, which kind of tells me that he wants to kind of lean on that run game this game, which is something that we really have thought they should have done most of the year.
Yes.
We thought Blake Shapen would be a great, almost like point guard type quarterback, but don't make him try to make the key plays to win the game. And that's not always been the case of how they kind of operate their offense. But with that being said, like they're 55th in offense or defensive efficiency. So this is a defense that can be had by all the positive we've talked about with Ole Miss defensively and some of the stuff that they do. They can be had. Again, those that don't know, I use efficiency over total yards and total defense because that takes into account your opponent, time that you allow those yards. Like, if you allow you're up by 30 and you allow, 150 yards in the fourth quarter and you still win by 28, like who cares, So it takes all that kind of time and place in. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas put up 35 against them. Georgia put up 43. Oklahoma, which has struggled offensively, put up 26. Florida, who has struggled offensively, put up 24. But then they also have the 14 allowed to South Carolina. Heck, even Washington State put up 21.
Yeah.
LSU put up 19, which is kind of about what LSU has done against everyone. But then they held Tulane, who's a pretty good offense team, to 10. Kentucky's not a great offense team. They scored 23. Like, they're giving up points, and they are a defense that you can make some plays on.
Yeah, you can make some plays on them. The problem is their offense is very good, and if they're holding someone to about 20 to 25 points, they probably put up 35 to 40, and they're okay with it. But I think running the ball is going to be, kind of a focal point, because, I mean, he doesn't give you too much information in classic Lebby fashion about Fluff, but he says that he thinks he's feeling the best he's felt in a long time, and that last week was a huge for him to have that extra time off. So I think that is kind of speaks to what we both said about how Fluff hasn't looked like himself since he came back from the injury, and maybe this extra week off allowed him to get closer to that and will once again be a focal point of the offense, because as good as Booth has been, he's been so explosive and so good carrying it. You miss a little bit of something with his just physicality that he can bring and getting those tough yards right up the gut.
And I did think it was funny because he's not going to give any kind of tip of the cap on things out there. So he did not give an update on Brennan Thompson, Isaac Smith. Obviously, the availability report's been out, so we know it now. But again, he's not going to give any tip of the cap. But I just going off of some of the stuff he said, they really need to emphasize the running game, and it feels like based on what he's saying, they're going to. The issue is how much is he trying to lead on Ole Miss to think, oh, we're going to be running it, and really they're trying to set up more of the explosive than passing game, because that's the one thing, and we'll dive into it much more on Friday's episode when we do our where Mississippi State has an advantage offensively and defensively. But that's one of the biggest advantages I think Mississippi State has, because Ole Miss has been very susceptible to the big play in the secondary because they have bust. We also saw, and we've seen it a couple times, but against Oklahoma, one of their biggest plays was not because the original play sprung someone wide open, although there was a guy wide open, but he didn't get the ball. It was holding it and then extending the play out of the pocket and then finding the big bust in the secondary. And so I think that is the big plays in the passing game are going to be there. They're going to be you're going to be able to make some. Now Blake's got to make them, and I'm saying Blake for those that are like it should be Camario.
Yeah,
until it's Camario, I'm not going to believe in it. It's going to be Blake, and so I mean he's got to make them.
Yeah, he has to make the plays, and that was something I kind of noticed. Yeah, they're susceptible to those big plays, and especially when you factor in the speed of Evans and Thompson, everyone's susceptible to those guys getting behind him. But they're going to have to give him time, and running the ball is going to be huge. But I also wonder if this is just Lebby doing the old school football coach thing. Yeah, we've got to run the ball. We got to establish the run. And every coach says that, and half of them never hand the ball off when they say that kind of stuff. It's just like a talking point that they've memorized over the years. So it's going to be an interesting game to see if these are hints to what he's planning, or if this is just he's saying stuff, because we've seen him all season. He just kind of leans into coach speak, the old school, just repeating those phrases ad nauseum, whether they're actually any bearing to the next week or not.
Yeah. Another thing is, and we'll talk about it coming up next, he dove into the Egg Bowl and just the experience the players have had, also the newcomers, how he gets them ready for the Egg Bowl, which is Blake included because he didn't play in it last year. So we'll talk about all that coming up next. Well, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. right now. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, well, thanks for being Locked On Mississippi State, your first listener of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Excuse me. All right, so yes, Jeff Lebby also dove into the Egg Bowl. One of the questions he was asked was having players with the Egg Bowl experience, like how much of a benefit is that? He said, hey, we've got a bunch of staff members that played here and that played inside this game and understand what it's about. So I think the more you can talk about that part of it, and guys that have come before and have played in between the white lines in this game, and as they have the ability to communicate to our guys that maybe haven't been here long and don't know the history as much as some of the others, I think it's great for our entire football team to, again, understand the urgency, what's at stake, and you see the guys that are from our state that have played in the game, man, there's great pride in how we do what we do on Friday morning. Yeah, I mean, having that experience is really good.
Yeah, I think his point is that the experience is good. He said it in the weirdest way that a human could string that sentence together. But
it was almost like he was trying to give coach speak to a really simple answer.
Yeah, it was like he was, and then started trying to give credit to other people along the way and didn't know how to work it in, which, yeah, I'm sure having staff on there, especially in this era, like he mentions other things, in the era of the transfer portal, where you have guys who are only on campus for 6, 7, 8, 9 months,
right,
that come from different parts of the country, they might not understand how important this game is. But to have people on the staff who, grew up in the state, then played in the game, and now are coaching the game, they understand. And it's probably so much easier to be able to convey like just the importance and the emotion of this game when you have people who have lived it their whole life and not just you as the head coach trying to get people a little more fired up for it. Because that's another thing that we've talked about a little bit with like the transfer portal and then how things are changing with conferences. Right. Yeah, we're losing some rivalry games, but you're also losing just that hatred you get for an opponent from the player side of just like watching them for 4 or 5 years and then finally getting your shot. So it's definitely good to have those guys around.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually about to go there with the transfer portal. It's done several good things. It's also obviously done some negative things, but I think the biggest negative is that you have kind of lost the luster of those rivalries because players just don't really understand what it means to the area that they're in. Some do, and you try to coach it into them, but coaching it into someone and them actually just feeling it are I believe are two different things in my opinion.
Yeah.
The people that go, to Mississippi State or Ole Miss out of high school and they're going because they want to play in that game, they're going to have a different feel than someone that transfers in and you just kind of teach them how all this history and all the negativity between the two schools. But the one thing I will say against that is this one's a different one in terms of usually you have to kind of muster up sometimes that hatred and ready to play for that game and ready to play that game and beat a pretty good team, but there's not really anything at stake for you. And so it's harder to do that. This year you have so much at stake that there is no reason this team should come out flat. Like, and I'm not saying that they won't win or they will win the game. No, they can still get beat and they can still lose by a couple touchdowns. I'm just saying with everything that's at stake, they should be ready to play just off of that. And then on top of that, you have the rivalry and all this other stuff. If you're not ready to play to get to a bowl game to extend your season, then there's major issues, and it starts with the head coach.
Yeah, you might say there's a ton to play for, as Lebby did about 7 times during this press conference. And when they asked him what the Egg Bowl meant to him, he got another winding answer in there, and he very quickly went to getting bowl eligible. He's like, but the rivalry to our fan base, our community, our university, our program, understanding there's a lot that goes into this for a calendar year, understanding the momentum it gives us, the ability to create from a recruiting standpoint. I think that's a huge thing. And then he goes on and on about being 1-0 on Friday, but that's huge he said it again in a very strange way, but the game was big to the community and the university and to this team, not just for getting bowl eligible, getting the win over a top 10 team, getting a win over your rival.
Mm-hmm.
It's the recruiting standpoint, which he mentions there, and he has a much longer answer about that later.
I was about to dive into that one. So that's a great segue. He was asked about the team morale and recruiting to have a golden egg in lobby, and he basically said you can't measure it. He said I really don't. It is a huge deal for us, and again, we're continuing to build this thing the way I want, and we want to give us this ability to sustain. He said, man, it's a huge deal to find a way to go 1-0, and talked a little bit about it earlier, but there's the great amount of momentum that will come with that. And I want our fans to be incredibly proud about having the ability to be 1-0 on Friday. But he's right. Having that win this weekend is just massive. Again, we talked about it, I believe it was on Tuesday, could have been Monday's podcast. I'm not a big believer in, because you won this game this year, you have all this momentum into next year on the field. But off the field recruiting and stuff, absolutely it's going to benefit.
Yeah, it has a huge benefit. And to get away from recruiting, what you said about momentum, I don't believe it really translates to those players, but the coaches can get some momentum. Like they figure out what works. Maybe something clicks for them, whether game management or how to use certain players that are going to be back. That kind of momentum can exist, but they need it going into the transfer portal, because he also mentioned some guys he positions looking at the transfer portal, mainly both lines, which if you can get some momentum and you show up big time and you're like, hey, we're just beat them, we're going to a bowl game, come here and help us take that next step.
Right.
That's a much easier pitch to make to someone than we missed a bowl game. We're still if you go lose by 3 or 4 scores, that's a much harder sell to someone that you're a step or two away.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I did want to bring up the Shapen thing because I kind of talked about it before, but his answer again was kind of weird because he was asked straight up about Shapen, but he kind of talked about all guys. Again, gave a coach speak answer. But he said for all of our guys, just the excitement of having the opportunity to check a bunch of boxes. And I think that's our entire football team. Really excited about a great opportunity Friday morning. All eyes on this football game, and Blake, along with everybody else, ready to take advantage of that. So again, and then that is one of the answers where the Camario Taylor people that what Camario will start will be like, well, hey, maybe Camario is starting because he didn't really give a great answer about Blake, but no, it's going to be Blake. But yeah, I mean, and he is right with a lot of the stuff he said there in terms of it's going to be exciting for all these guys that haven't played in that to kind of get a taste of it. And it's a Black Friday game, so it's going to be different from your normal Saturday game. Mm-hmm. It's different from even your typical Friday night game. It's just different. You have to navigate the distractions of it being a holiday week. I'm sure a lot of the players, if they'll probably do like a Thanksgiving with their families and stuff this weekend, so they're probably looking forward to that. But first, you got to get through the game on Friday.
Yeah, maybe, the press conference being on Sunday instead of Monday threw Lebby off his game a little bit, but
I wonder if it's just because he's upset with how the last couple of weeks have gone.
This
is the first time they've just been blown out like consecutively.
That could be it. And, just having the bye week and not having specific things to talk about. He's trying to be super vague about practice.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's going to, and it's
also, that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. And it's cool for all these guys, so many new faces, to have their first taste of this game be at home. You don't have to go on the road and experience it. You get it at home. You're in the crowd. It's gone that 11 a.m. kick. I mean, it's them. This is the big game, really. I mean, it's going to be an exciting one, obviously, for us to watch. But I mean, it's going to be a show to put on for people to hear the cowbells. Those things come through so loud on the TV, and people who aren't ready for it are going to wonder what is happening.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming to next, we will give our upset pick of the week. Don't go anywhere.
The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. The quality is exactly what you hope for. The steaks are tender, so full of flavor. And having all that there just makes cooking weeknight or hosting easier. And they have so much variety: steaks, burgers, sides, desserts. I mean, whatever you're looking for, they have it. And it's the kind of gift that brings people together. You don't even have to guess anyone's size. So save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details.
Alrighty, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, who is your upset pick of the week?
So, unlike last week, there was a lot of good choices for upsets this week, and I've gone back and forth on a few of them, but I'm going with Texas over Texas A&M. It's going to be, it's in Austin, and their playoff hopes are hanging by a thread. If they win this, maybe they sneak in, and they are going to love the chance to end A&M's undefeated season. So that team is going to come out fired up, and I know it was Arkansas's defense, but that offense might be kind of clicking a little bit now for Texas.
Yeah, I actually really like that pick because I was going to go with that pick. So that's why I really like it. But one of the reasons why I was going to go with that one is just because I just want to see A&M beat Texas before I believe that they can't. Now, with that being said, I think this A&M team is a totally different team than what we've seen in the past. And big credit to that is Mike Elko.
Yes.
But how many times have we seen just the mental edge a team has on another team, and they just can't beat them? And they might be better than them, but they just can't beat them. I feel like Texas kind of has that over A&M, and I know that they only played 1 year so far since coming back to the SEC and being able to play that game. But it just feels like Texas just kind of owns A&M. I mean, I know they're 77, 37, and 5 against A&M all time. And they have won the last 2 meetings against each other. Texas has won the last 2. And Texas honestly has won like since 2000. They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the 13.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty lopsided.
Yeah, and so I just want to see A&M be able to do it. But since you went with that one, I'll go with a different one. I kind of went through it, and one that kind of screams, and I'm not going with this one, but one that kind of jumps out to me is Michigan again.
Yeah,
5 years in a row. And it's not because I think that they should beat Ohio State.
No.
It's because
I think they're in their head.
They're in their head, just how I mentioned with Texas and Texas A&M. I mean, that's 4 straight wins for Michigan in that series. And last year, they had no business winning that game. And this year, they're much better than they were last year. Now, I think Ohio State is just as good, if not better. And it's at Michigan, and that game's just weird.
Yeah.
So you can see weird things happening. The game I'm going to go with is I was actually kind of surprised to see this. I'm actually going with Clemson over South Carolina. I was surprised to see South Carolina favored by 2.5. Their offensive line has been so bad this year, and Clemson does have a good defensive line. Again, there's pride in that rivalry. South Carolina, I believe, has won 2 of the last 3 in that series. And, obviously won last year at Clemson. And so I think Clemson wants some get back in that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. And honestly, that one, either way, if you told me the line was 2.5, either way, I would have believed it. Because that game, it's kind of whichever team shows up that week, because Clemson has their good weeks, and then they have the bad weeks. Same thing with South Carolina. Right. So that's really just a toss-up game. For a wild one, I almost wanted to pick UCLA over USC just for like that huge upset. Because it seems like there's always one on rivalry weekend, one that doesn't make any sense. And that one I could see kind of happening just with USC now pretty much out of it in terms of playoff hopes, and UCLA just having nothing to play for. I mean, why would they not just throw everything at the wall?
Yeah, the one I was considering outside of that one was Tennessee and Vanderbilt, but Tennessee's actually favored in that game by 2.5. I mean, I guess I could go with the upset with Vandy being over or ranked higher.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to the spread. And so, but that was one. I do think Tennessee probably beats Vanderbilt, which has been a magical season for them, even if they lose that one. Missouri at Arkansas is a kind of an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Just because Arkansas's offense can put up points, but their defense is so bad. And Ahmad Hardy was great against Mississippi State, was terrible against Oklahoma, which a lot of offenses are terrible against Oklahoma. I think I could see them going off for like 300 again against a team like Arkansas. But all right, well, thanks for being Locked On Mississippi State, your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Like I said, I'm Jaron. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We post daily videos Monday through Friday, so check those out. Also, we will not be doing a pregame on our social media platforms just because the game's on Friday. We have an episode that releases every Friday, so that will be your pregame. We will have a postgame video that we will post after that, so check that out. And until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.